Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was the General of Legion of Hope and his ex-harem was Yandere movie. Before we start, please go support Fenikusu of Abby's for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Issei hyodou is betrayed by those he considered friends, fathers, brothers, and the women who swore eternal love to him. But he took it very well, since that is why he should not lie anymore and returned to his position as one of the 5 celestial generals of the Legion of Hope, being the most powerful of the 5 known as the Celestial General of Chaos and Hope. Issei, chaotic leader of the Celestial End Team and leader of the Chaotic Clan, one of the 20 most powerful clans of the dimensions, being the Chaotic the second most powerful of all, only surpassed by the Destroyer Apocalypse Chaos. Clarifications: 1. Issei has 2 sisters and a brother who are Kazuma hyodou. Here I won't make him arrogant, and he admires Issei for never giving up. Izari hyodou and Akane hyodou. 2. Here Drake, Albion, Vala, and the Trihexa are women, and they are Issei's partners, and their names are Mine, Drake, Femme. Look, Albion, Femme. Valeria, female. Daki, female Trihexa. 3. Issei, when he entered the supernatural world, he humiliated all those who faced him, and not even 0.00001% of his power. Why they betrayed him? Because they were afraid of his power, but when they find out that he is one of the 5 celestial generals of the Legion of Hope, but the most powerful of the 5, they will want him lap. For the Issei I will use will be my OC. For those who don't know about it, see my OC and you will understand why I put so many zeros. 5. Issei's ex-partners will become so jealous when they see his real partner that they will become Yandere's. My first time making a Yandere type story. I hope it turns out well. 6. This will begin in a war where the factions are losing against Rizvim, since he managed to steal all the power of Daki, Trihexa Femme, and attack the underworld to rule it. But Issei will appear where he will give him a grape without Vaseline. Akeno formed the 1 level, meaning that he will break his demon pride and leave him sterile for life. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 1. Reunion and Humiliation of a False Lucifer. Chaos is what was in the underworld. Why? Simple. Rizvim Levan, Lucifer, the son of the original Lucifer, was attacking the underworld to then recreate it in his image, but for that he had to steal the power of Daki, Trihexa Femme, the dragon goddess of the apocalypse. When she stole it, she attacked the underworld without thinking twice. As soon as the underworld was attacked, all of its allies went to help, but when they saw Rizvim using the power of Daki, they were scared by it, but there came the dragon gods to help in the battle. But now we find ourselves seeing how the leaders like the dragon gods with the Gremory, Citri, Bale, and Phoenix entourages along with Valeria's team were lying on the ground unable to move, being seen by a Rizvim who had a very arrogant smile and spoke. Rizvim. Ha 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 ha, that's all the most powerful factions of all can do along with the dragon gods. That disappointed, said the white-haired man, disappointed in them while his army was laughing at them. But out of nowhere everyone felt a power that far surpassed that of Rizvim, so that everyone could hear a voice that was very familiar to the factions. Wow, factions, I always have to save their asses in cases like these, said a male voice while 25% of the Rizvim army fell to the ground without heads. That scared everyone to look at Brown with gray eyes with a black suit with gold in some parts, but tight, showing his very well-worked physique. The factions only said one name while in shock. The factions, Issei. They said in shock because the person they exiled was there, but their brothers were crying with happiness that their older brother was there, but the girls blushed to atomic levels because of how handsome he became in just 9 months, but more their sisters who had their crotches wet because of how handsome and hot their older brother became. Yes, that's what they think. They are in love with Issei, but they didn't say it because they would make fun of them for liking their older brother. And the suit that Issei had didn't help, it made him look more of a man. But Rizvim spoke. Rizvim, how impossible! If I sent you to be killed and my right hand brought me your head, how is it possible? The old lesbian shouted so that all the factions were in shock about it, but Issei spoke. Issei, you don't mean illicit Lucifuger's head, right? He said with a mocking smile so that Rizvim could take Issei's head out of a pocket dimension, but when he took it out, it was from his right hand, illicit Lucifuger. That left everyone, including Rizvim himself, in shock because they deceived Rizvim, who was said to be very cunning, but Issei spoke. Issei, I'd better introduce myself properly, he said to leave everyone confused, but spoke again. My name is not Issei hyodou, it is Issei Chaotic, the Celestial General of Chaos and Hope of the Legion of Hope, the leader of the Celestial End Team and leader of the Chaotic Clan, one of the 19 most powerful clans of all dimensions. He said aloud to release 1% of his power so that the entire Rizvim army is trembling with fear as well as the leaders and Rizvim, but leaving the Gremory entourages confused. Citri, Baal and Phoenix along with Valeria and Rias's team spoke. Rias, brother, what is the Legion of Hope? The redhead asked her brother with doubt. She asked the same thing to her sister. It would also be worth it to Azazel and Zerchers. She spoke. Zerchers. Rias, the Legion of Hope is a legion of more than 900 trillion beings from all dimensions that just one of the low-class soldiers can destroy an entire planet by itself, said the leader of the demons to his sister, so that she is in shock like the others who did not know about that legion. But he spoke again also that Issei is one of the 5 celestial generals who have the highest rank in the legion, being the most powerful of the 5, also that he is the leader of the celestial N-team that are capable of destroying billions of multiverses with only 3% of their power. And the worst thing is that he is the leader of the chaotic clan, a clan capable of bringing chaos to the dimensions, he said, and explained, very scared by that, so that the others are in the same way as him. But everyone saw a white flash appear next to Issei to show a blonde with bright amber eyes with clothes that showed her figure. All the men were blushing because of the girl who appeared next to Issei, but she spoke. I'm done with what you asked me for, love, said the blonde, to take out an orb that gave off a power that surpassed Rizvim's power by hundreds. That surprised everyone but Odin more, but Issei spoke. Issei, thanks Lupin, now you can return to the mansion with Luisa, Issei said to the blonde known as Lupin so that she could kiss him on the lips, and they separated with a thread of saliva, blushing everyone even more, and the blonde left in a white flash, leaving everyone from the factions with their mouths open. But Rizvim spoke. Rizvim, wow, it seems you didn't waste any time and got a beautiful woman. But when I kill you, I'll go where she is and have fun with her until I get tired of her and then kill her, ha 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 ha, he said madly. But Issei spoke. Issei, oh sorry, did you say something? He asked mockingly to provoke the demon, which he achieved since Rizvim launched himself against the angry Hyper, but he dodged him. Oalii, let's go Toido Bull Toreteo, he said with bullfighter clothes that nobody knows where he got them from, but it angered Rizvim more, who launched himself at great speed, but Issei with a red cloth removed it and said, Oalii, he said, dodging the blow that Rizvim who spoke was going to give him. Rizvim. So he ordered his army to kill him, but Issei spoke with an emotionless and cold voice that scared everyone. Issei, now that I remember, you said you were going to grape my wife and then kill her, and I won't let that stop you, scum, he said with an emotionless and icy voice, making hand poses and speaking summoning jutsu. Issei said, touching the ground to make a large smoke screen appear. When the smoke screen dispersed, a gigantic turtle with blood-red eyes could be seen roaring and scaring everyone. The entire Rizvim army, seeing such a monster, shit themselves, but Issei spoke. Issei, Gamera, take care of the Rizvim army. I'll take care of him, he said seriously to the turtle known as Gamera, who nodded to hit with his tail where the Rizvim army was to make a tremor, while Issei had jumped where Rizvim was creating a crater when hitting the floor and spoke. Issei, well Rizvim, let's finish this because I have to go back home to my wife and daughter, he said seriously, but what he said shocked the factions, but the girls were heartbroken because of it, but inside them something was being born without them realizing that they never thought they would feel. While with Issei he disappeared in a dark brown flash to appear behind Rizvim to kick him, that sent him against the wall of the place where they were, but some black spheres went against Issei who only dodged them, but Rizvim appeared behind him to give him a blow that sent him against the wall that fell on top of him. And the white-haired man spoke. Rizvim, is that all the celestial general of chaos and hope can do? He asked mockingly, but the wall that was above Issei shot up and Issei could be seen, who said some words that surprised the fallen angels. Issei, chains of resentment, he said so that Rizvim would be caught by chains made of darkness that disappeared after a few seconds and spoke. Issei, now we can go seriously, old man, he said to take out a black sword with pink and white shining to disappear in a dark brown flash to appear next to Rizvim to tell his arm, making him cry in pain. Issei, come on, is that all a Lucifer can do? He shouted mockingly to cut off a leg, making him scream more in pain. Rizvim looked at him in fear to make a magic circle to escape. But when the magic circle disappeared, Rizvim appeared again in the place where he was before it disappeared, and Issei spoke. You can't escape, idiot, because of the chains of resentment, since the only way for it to disappear is death, he said to give a macabre smile that scared everyone from the factions who were surprised by how Issei acted since he was not the Issei they knew. So Issei started to play with Rizvim, who asked for mercy, but Issei turned a deaf ear. Even those from the factions asked him to stop, but it was the same, he turned a deaf ear until he got tired and spoke. Issei, I'm tired of this, but before you die, Rizvim, let me tell you something, he said, looking at Rizvim, who was without arms, legs, without an eye but was alive. The girl I told to leave is from the Lucifer clan, but also from the Pacific clan, 2 of the 19 most powerful clans in all dimensions. She along with her twin brother are the leaders of those clans. Her brother is the leader of the Lucifer clan, and she is the leader of the Pacific clan, he said with a smile at the expression on Rizvim's face, but spoke again. And so you know you are not from the Lucifer clan, you are just someone who stains his name. That's why Lupin asked me to take care of you, to clear the name of his clan, he said seriously, to leave those of the factions more than surprised by that, since there was a clan with the last name Lucifer. But the most surprising thing is that Issei's wife had that last name, but they saw that Issei carried golden rays in his hand and jumped on top of Rizvim to say something that surprised everyone. Plasma lightning, he said, to shoot thousands of golden rays that hit Rizvim to disappear him forever. When he finished using the technique, he looked at the features and spoke. Issei, do not look for me if you do not want to be annihilated, he said seriously, to jump to Gamera's head, who had finished annihilating the Rizvim army, to disappear in a smoke screen before the eyes of the factions. But the girls fell to their knees crying for not being able to talk to Issei. Mio, Mira and Daki are out of the seal on Mio's part, and Mira on Issei's part because before leaving he freed them, and on Daki's part because when Issei defeated her she became his partner, and they decided to free her on the condition that she does not destroy anything, and she accepted. But the men saw her eyes and they had no shine that scared them, and they spoke. Rias, Fufufu, we will have to kill that hitch who took what is ours, right girls, she asked with madness and obsession to her friends, who nodded at what the redhead said that scared the men so much that they were trembling with fear from the look of madness and obsession that they all had. Ale and his male friends, I won't pass through there, said all the men of my OC in a castle floating in a well with a barrier around the castle with billions of turrets around. Issei, really? I ask with a drop of sweat because of that. Like my wives, like Kurumi Ino Izumi, black-haired, and the other women in my OC. Vala OC, I don't know, tell me. The white-haired man shouted from one of the castle towers to get a bigger drop of sweat out of those outside. Chapter 2, Reunion. And who is chaotic Issei and Pacific Lumen Lucifer? After the humiliation that Issei gave to Rizvim before killing him, all the factions that were present were talking about who they were. Los Angeles, the Fallen, the Demons, the Yokais, the Nordics, the Greeks, the Indians, the Aztecs, and the Dragons less Great Red, ULLCY. The first to speak was Xerxes. Xerxes, you know very well why we are here, right? The leader of the demons asked seriously, to receive a nod from the other leaders, and Azazel spoke. Azazel, we are here to talk about the great personality change that Issei had. Since when we met him he was very kind and helped everyone in what he could, and he never dared to kill someone, he only humiliated them so they would stop being arrogant. No razor? He said, and asked the Phoenix heir, who nodded, since thanks to Issei he stopped being arrogant and very confident, and since he was exiled he decided to train to overcome his limits and be a worthy heir of his clan. But when he saw him he could not believe that the person who helped him open his eyes had murdered a person. But Michael spoke. Michael, not only that, but he's married and has a daughter with that girl named Lupin, but I don't know why her name is familiar to me, he said, trying to remember where he heard that name before. The same thing happened with the other leaders, but 2 soldiers came in with a folder, each one knelt down, and the first one spoke. Demonic Soldier 1, Xerxes-sama, we have information about chaotic Issei and Pacific Lumen Lucifer, said the soldier with respect, so that all the leaders looked at them so that Rias could speak. Rias, what do you know about me, Issei? She asked with great seriousness and obsession that no one noticed, so the second soldier could speak. Demonic Soldier 2, what we know is this, said, making a hologram of a brown-haired man with gray eyes touching the silver color, with a black suit with gold in some parts, but tight, showing his very well-worked physique that blushed all the women present and left on the floor the pride of the men present for the change that Issei had. Imagine that you have gray eyes touching silver. Demon Soldier 2 opened the folder he was carrying and began to speak. Demon Soldier 2, well, here is Issei's information. Name, Issei. Surname, CAOTIC. Parents, unknown. That surprised everyone since there was no information about his parents, but the hyodou patriarchs who were there had their heads down because of that, since that meant that Issei did not consider them his parents. But the Demonic Soldier 2 continued talking. Physical age, 17. Mental age, 100 billion, he said, to look at the surprised faces of everyone present except for the Demonic Soldier 1 to continue speaking. Races, Phoenix Dragon Legendary Wolf Devil Spirit Kizun Goddesses Celestial Sapiens Vampire Shijigami. Securities: Leader of the Celestial End Team. Heavenly General of Chaos and Hope. Leader of the Chaotic Clan. Weapons: Sword of Supreme Darkness and Destruction and Black Shadow. Said the Demonic Soldier to make 2 holograms. One of a black sword with pink and white shine and another of a completely black revolver, but it was seen that it should not be taken lightly since there was a danger sign. The sword, the revolver. Demon Soldier 2. Family was going to speak, but everyone spoke, or rather shouted. Everyone except the demonic soldiers. What do you mean? Relatives. They all shouted in surprise that he didn't have just one relative but more than one, and the demonic soldier spoke. Demonic Soldier 2. If he has more than one familiar. More specifically 4 familiars who are Silver the Horse of Absolute Chaos, Whiter the White Dragon of Lightning, Sally the Sea Monster of the Solar World, and Gamera the Guardian Turtle. Said the Demonic Soldier to show a hologram where there was a horse black as the eternal night with eyes red as blood, a dragon white as snow with blue rays on its wings, a kind of black worm with fiery orange fins, and a giant turtle black as night with 2 fangs in its mouth and blood red eyes. Everyone was surprised by the relatives Issei had. But the most surprised were the dragons and dragonesses because one of their parents was with the person they exiled. But the demonic soldier spoke again. Demonic Soldier 2. Been married and with a daughter that we have no information about her. Sorry, he said, making all the leaders like the others who were there have a face of frustration, but the girls had a face of hatred for that, and they were getting an idea of who was the boar who gave it to that bastard. But the Demonic Soldier 1 spoke. Demonic Soldier 1. Now the information of Lumen Pacific. Lucifer said, making a hologram of a blonde girl with bright amber eyes with flowers on one side of her head with clothes that showed her figure that blushed all the men present, even those who have partners or married. Instead, the women were all releasing their auras because there was the boar, according to them, who stole their Issei, but the others who were with partners or married were looking at their respective partners with a look that terrified them, and they looked away. Demon Soldier 1. Well, she is Lord Issei's wife, and here is her information. Name: Lumen. Last name: Pacific Lucifer. Parents: unknown. Physical age: 17. Mental age: 100 billion. Said to look at everyone who was surprised by that since they had the same mental age, but the Demonic Soldier 1 continued talking. Races: Phoenix Dragon Legendary Wolf Devil Spirit Kizun Angel Goddesses Celestial Sapiens Vampire Shijigami. Securities: The White Flash said to surprise those who knew about that title since that person wiped out a legion of more than 8 million renegades in less than 30 seconds. The Archer of Dimensions. The bearer of the Berserker Sword that almost gave the gods and dragon gods a heart attack because that sword was one of the most powerful in the dimensions and the subject of hunters. The leader of the Pacific Clan. Weapons: the Berserker Sword and the Bow of the Stars. He said to make 2 holograms, one of a black sword with dark red and the other hologram of a white bow with dark blue in some parts with 2 orbs at the top of the bow. That surprised everyone since they knew the Bow of the Stars, which was a legendary category bow surpassing by hundreds the sacred sword Excalibur. The one from his world, because the original equals it in power, but in a combat the Bow of the Stars would win because if your shots always hit, it doesn't matter if you owed them or dodged them, it will always hit because its arrows have a life of their own and only follow the will of the bearer of the bow. Berserker. The Bow of the Stars. Demon Soldier 1. Relatives was going to speak, but everyone spoke, or rather shouted again. Everyone except the Demonic Soldiers. What about her too? They all screamed again in shock that she also has a familiar like Issei. Demonic Soldier 1. Yes, she also has relatives, which are Solarium, the Fire Unicorn, Dark Dragon, the Dragon of Eternal Darkness, Augustine, the Aberration of the Galactic Ocean, and Jormungandr, the World Serpent. Said Demonic Soldier 1 to make a hologram where there was a black unicorn with hair like fire, a large dragon with 6 very terrifying wings, an aberration, as its name says, without eyes, with very sharp teeth, with 2 small heads also with sharp teeth, with hands with very sharp claws and many tentacles behind him, and a giant snake that the Asgardians were surprised by. Now they knew why Jormungandr was not in their kingdom, because he was the relative of the wife of one of the 5 celestial generals of the Legion of Hope. Demonic Soldier 1. Been married and with a daughter, that's all we have of them. Zurcher-sama, with your permission we retire, he said, bowing like his partner to leave from there. When they left, Zeus spoke. Zeus. I say we leave him alone since it could be very bad for us if we mess with the boy, said the leader of the Greek faction seriously. All the gods agreed with him except the angels, the fallen angels, demons and yokai, but the girls spoke. Look, just because he's one of the celestial generals doesn't mean he can have a harem. Remember, he's part dragon, he said with a sick smile, so the other girls who were in love with Issei would have the same smile. But Orochi, the leader of the Aztec faction, spoke. Orochi, don't even think about going after him, because if that happens, don't ask us for help to defend yourselves if he attacks you, said the leader of the Aztecs very seriously, so that the gods would nod at what Orochi said. But out of nowhere a crack opened to show a redhead with crimson red eyes with a black jacket and a dark blue t-shirt under the jacket with pants tight to her legs. Everyone was surprised by the girl who was there, but Ophis spoke. Ophis, it was about time. Elizabeth, she said seriously to the one known as Elizabeth who spoke. Elizabeth, I'm sorry, Ophis. It's just that I didn't know what to wear, but I decided on this one, Elizabeth said normally, but looked at all the looks of confusion and spoke. Oh, excuse my manners, my name is Elizabeth Uzumaki, but you know me as Big Red, she said, introducing herself as if she were the most normal in the world, but those with the factions were with their jaws on the floor. That's why Big Red, being a woman, was something surprising. Clarification. When she was on the floor, she was in her dragon form, so don't tell me that he changed from a man to a woman. But she spoke again. Elizabeth, can you tell me what happened when I was putting on clothes? I asked with doubt, so that Ophis could give her all the information about what the demonic soldiers 1 and 2 were talking about. That surprised her because Issei was one of the celestial generals, but that made her give a small, imperceptible smile, while she was thinking about how to get rid of Lupin and her daughter with Issei. So everyone was planning how to track Issei, but what they didn't know is that the aforementioned was seeing everything turned into a baby owl that was on a branch hiding from them, and thought something. The owl that Issei had turned into, Issei's thoughts. So they want me to be their weapon of war and get rid of Lupin and Lisa, but I won't let that happen. I think it's time to get rid of some factions, he thought maliciously, looking at searchers Michael, Azazel, Yasaka and the dragons who were present, who were Mio, Drake Femme, Mira, Albion Femme, Daki, Trihexa Femme, Ophis and Elizabeth, Gran Rojo Femme, while their eyes shone in a very terrifying blood-red color. Those who looked at them felt a very big chill, but they didn't know why, but they let it pass so that Issei could get out of there in a blur of speed so that no one would see him so fast. But it was late, since the yokais present felt his scent and spoke. Kaneko Kuroka Yasaka. Issei was here, they said, to surprise everyone, but they didn't feel his aura, and Daki spoke. Daki. He probably found out that we were going to look for him to make him come back with us, and went to tell that boy, she said angrily, for not seeing her man like all the other women in love with Issei. So they went to send search squads to look for Issei by the angels, fallen angels, demons and yokai, but the gods were serious because they felt their power increase a little, but enough for them to feel them. But they knew that the biblical factions like the yokai will be destroyed, because they knew the job of a celestial general is to leave nothing in your path if they bother him. For that reason they will not mess with them, so they went to their factions to increase their defenses in case they attack them by surprise. Chapter 3. The Celestial End Team and Declaration of War. Everyone was alert in case they saw Issei in their features, but there was nothing from Issei that worried them, since he could be planning something, and it was like that for 2 weeks, and there was nothing from Issei. Everyone thought he would do nothing, but out of nowhere they felt a power in a specific place, so all the leaders along with their armies went to that place, which was some mountains in a forest in the south of the vampire faction. So they all went to that place to look at a war zone, but a voice they recognized said the following. Issei, wow. I didn't think I'd see them again, features, Issei said calmly. They looked up to see Issei with a black mask with 2 red horns, an open red forehead, red eyes, red teeth with red fangs coming out of the mouth of the mask. Everyone was surprised because on Issei's back he had 8 pairs of wings of different types. 2 were silver dragon wings, another 2 were golden angel wings, another 2 were demon wings, but they were gray touching the silver color. Others were also angel wings, but 1 pair was purple and the other was black, but when he moved them they dropped purple and black ashes. And Zerchers spoke. Zerchers, Issei hyodou, you are ordered to return to the demon faction to be my sister's husband as part of your harem, said with authority and Siscon Lucifer this so that all the gods look at him with a face of, you are dead, Siscon. He did not understand those faces, but out of nowhere 4 auras that gave off the same power as Issei appeared out of nowhere, so that 4 flashes of different colors appear next to Issei. The first was crimson red, the second was green, the third was gold, and the last was brown. From the crimson red flash came out a white-haired man with crimson red eyes wearing a green suit with black and a little gold. From the green flash came a green-haired woman with emerald green eyes wearing a suit that was black on one side and red on the other, revealing her well-formed body with a look that said, the pervert who looked at me tortured him to death. That look scared all the perverts present. From the golden flash came a blonde man with sky blue eyes wearing a dark blue suit with a black hooded cape. From the light brown flash came a brown-haired man with emerald green eyes wearing a completely black suit. And the white-haired man spoke. "Hello, Grandpa. It's been a while," said the white-haired man looking at Zeus, who recognized the white-haired man's voice and spoke. "Zeus, Bel, is that you?" he asked, surprised that his grandson is a friend of Issei. All the gods upon hearing Bel's name were surprised because they thought he had been dead for more than 9,000 years, but he was there alive and Bel spoke. "Bel, yes, it's me, Grandpa. It's been a long time since the Black Dragon killed you and your family, as well as the Hera family," he said sadly, remembering that tragic day for him. But Issei touched him and patted him on the back to calm him down, which worked, but the green-haired girl spoke. "Well, we better introduce ourselves properly, right guys?" he said to the girl to receive a nod from the other guys who were with her, and Bel spoke. "Bel, well, let me introduce myself. My name is Bel Crannel, sub-leader of the Celestial End Team, the Celestial General of the Conquest and Heroes and leader of the Crannel clan. A pleasure, gentlemen and ladies," said the white-haired man, introducing himself to shock the gods who knew him but more: Zeus, Hera, Artemis, Hermes, Loki, Freya and Hestia. All of them are from the Daimachi series because yes. And that's it, because they knew about the Crannel clan, which was Bel's clan. But they never imagined that he was the leader of that clan, since it was considered one of the 20 most powerful clans in all dimensions. But the green-haired girl spoke. "Well, now it's my turn. My name is Izumi Midoriya Apocalypse the Green Flash, the Celestial General of Justice of Life and Death, and the leader of the Midoriya clan, a pleasure faction," said the one known as Izumi seriously to shock everyone, because they knew those two clans too, since they were among the 20 most powerful clans in all dimensions, but more the angels, because they went to fight against those clans, but they were almost exterminated. But in front of them was the leader of the Midoriya clan. "But why doesn't she have the title of leader of the Apocalypse clan?" But she spoke again. "And before you ask, my twin brother has the title of leader of the Apocalypse clan. In case you wonder why I don't have that title, because he was chosen to be the leader of the Apocalypse clan, and I of the Midoriya clan." The leader of the Midoriya clan explained seriously so that they would be surprised, but they nodded at that, and the blonde who was with them spoke. "Well, my turn to introduce myself. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the Sniper of Dimensions, the Celestial General of the Ninjas and Assassins and leader of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans." "A pleasure, gentlemen," said the blonde known as Naruto, introducing himself seriously to leave everyone from the Japanese faction in shock, because they know him since he was in the era of the ninjas, being the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox known to them as Kurama. But Naruto spoke. "It's been a long time, Amaterasu, Tsukuyami Susanoo, and the other Japanese gods. If you wonder why I am alive, it's simple. I am immortal thanks to because I am part phoenix, and that makes me immortal, as immune to practically everything that can harm a living being," he said with a smile at the faces of the Japanese gods, but also confused the other factions. But the brown-haired man with emerald green eyes spoke. "Well, finally, my name is Tatsumi Infernus Sparta, the bearer of the katana of the Nemesis, the Celestial General of the Absolute Hells and Devils, and the leader of the Infernus and Sparta clans. A pleasure, faction leaders and the others," he said seriously but with manners. But when he said his last names, all the dragons present were in shock, because in front of them was one of the few Spardas who were alive in the world, but worse, was the leader of the Sparta clan, and the leader of the Infernus clan, founded by Infernus, the god king emperor dragon of darkness and destruction. But at first glance you could only see that he was weak, but if you noticed his power, he was above Infernus, since he is a Sparta too, and the Spardas are at the level of a god king emperor celestial if they use 100% of their power, but also because he was the bearer of the katana of the Nemesis, the katana that killed the giant of supreme chaos Kazuma. Now they were a little scared by, but Issei spoke. "Issei, and I have a warning for the biblical factions, yokais, and the dragons," said the brown-haired boy seriously so that those named pay attention. Issei, chaotic leader of the Celestial End Team, declare war on the biblical factions, yokais, and the dragons. He declared with absolute seriousness. That left those named in shock, but Rias spoke. "Rias, no, you can't do that, and the children like elders and women of the named factions, what?" She screamed in amazement at that, like the others of her faction and the other factions. But Bel spoke. "Bel, simple, they will be taken to the island of the 10 legendary races to live a normal life, and the orphan children will be educated to be what they want on the island, since there we do not judge like you by ranks," he said seriously and angry because he saw what they do to the lower class. "Boys and girls are treated like living shit, men are paid very little, and women are raped as hex toys, and that will not be tolerated." Instead, the gods were serious because they saw how those from those factions are treated. That is why they will not help in this war, since they are not like them. And Izumi spoke. Izumi, we will give them 1 month to prepare for the first attack that we will give to one of the biblical factions, or the yokais, or the dragons. Who knows which one we will attack first, he said with an evil smile that scared everyone from those factions. And Naruto spoke. Naruto, but we will only say this to those who try to help the biblical factions. Yokais and dragons will be completely exterminated without leaving any survivors. So if I were you gods, I would not help them in the attacks that will occur in 1 month, said the blonde with a macabre smile that scared all the gods, especially the Greeks, because they knew that Bel was able to defeat the Black Dragon. A dragon that was at the level of a Dragon King god. In fact, he was the most powerful of all the Dragon King gods, almost at the level of a Dragon Emperor God King, so they will not help at all. Tatsumi, well, that was all we wanted to tell you. We'll see you in a month. Biblical factions, yokais and Dagonika, he said, to disappear in a light brown flash like Naruto in a golden one, Izumi in a green one, Bel in a crimson red one, and finally Issei, who before leaving said something that scared everyone. Issei, we will see each other on the battlefield, factions, and I will not make it easy for you. It will be like facing an evil dragon god, ha 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 ha, he said, laughing like a man meant to disappear in a dark brown flash, leaving some biblical yokai and Dagonika factions scared by that. So everyone went to their factions, the gods, to rest and set up their defenses 24 hours a day in case they were attacked. On the other hand, the biblical yokai and Dragonic factions would put their defenses to the maximum and begin training to be able to face the Celestial End team and be able to recover Issei. Chapter 4. The Fall of the Fallen Faction. It's been 1 month since the Celestial End team declared war on the biblical yokai and Dragonika factions. At that time, all of those factions were training until exhaustion, and the dragon goddesses created a pocket dimension where time passes so much faster that 1 day inside would be 1,000 years in the pocket dimension. When they came out, the entire supernatural world felt their power, scaring them of their power except for the Celestial End team, since their power did not reach. It only reached those of the 3rd category of the Legion of Hope in close combat, and those from a distance. But that might be interesting to you. But returning to the topic, we find ourselves in the mansion of the Celestial End team. Duan had many turrets around the house with a force field that covered the entire mansion. The Heavenly End team mansion. Imagine it is 15 times bigger. The turrets, there are 100 million on each side of the mansion. The force field. Imagine it has 40 layers. The Celestial End team were in one of the mansion's rooms with their partners talking about which faction to attack. Naruto, I say we attack the dragons because they are the strongest and can give us problems, said the sniper of the dimension seriously, so that everyone agrees with him. But Issei spoke. Issei, it is not better to start with the fallen, since they are the weakest and they are the ones who give the technology to the other factions, so if we kill them, goodbye technological advances, the leader of the chaotic clan explained seriously so that everyone thinks, and they saw that he was right, and one of the boys' couples spoke. Mona, it's true, without the fallen it will be easier to enter their defenses with some stealth, said a black-haired woman with blue eyes and with a magician's head a little larger than normal and had purple and black clothes that showed her body. Was Mona Asterius Asmodeus, the partner of Bel and leader of the Asterius and Asmodeus clans, also known as the Destroyer of the Purple Lightning. Izumi, what Mona and Issei say is true. Without them it will be easier to enter their defenses with some stealth, or we can enter like in the wars we had a long time ago because of you, said the green flash seriously, looking at the boys present, who began to laugh nervously. But a teenager of approximately 16 years old entered the room and spoke. Louisa, Dad, Mom, have you thought about which faction to start attacking with? Asked a brunette with bright amber eyes like Lupin. It was Louisa, Chaotic Pacific, Lucifer, Issei's daughter with Lupin, and she was wearing a black combat suit. Louisa's appearance. Imagine having bright amber eyes like Lupin. The suit that Louisa wears. Issei, yes daughter, we already have the faction that we will attack, which is the fallen one, so we will cut off the supply of technology to enter their defenses with some stealth, Issei said to his daughter with a smile. That brought a smile to his daughter, who nodded and left with the other daughters of the Celestial End team, and Lupin hugged Issei and spoke. Lupin, I'm very happy that Louisa smiles. Since you left she didn't smile again because of your absence, darling, but when you came back she smiled again, she said sadly, remembering how Louisa suffered the absence of Issei in the mansion. But Issei kissed her to make her feel good, which worked, and when they separated she had a very big blush on her face, and spoke back as she said, blushing, looking away, that made the others laugh because of her current way with Issei. So the entire Heavenly End team went to prepare the third category melee soldiers and the ranged ones to attack the fallen faction. It's been 2 hours and we find ourselves in the fallen faction, to be more exact, with Azazel, Penemu and Valeria talking because they are on their break. Well, the girls, because Azazel was creating a tracker to search for Issei along with the Celestial End team, although he does it under threat from Penemu and Valeria, and it was about to end. Valeria, Azazel, how long until the tracker comes to look for my Issei? The white-haired woman with blood-red eyes, an enviable body and red clothes, asked obsessively to Azazel's virgin crow. Azazel, I'm almost done. There's just one thing missing and it'll be ready to use, he said, scared because the two women were pointing a minigun with blessed bullets at the poor guy's ass. But Penemu spoke. Penemu, Valeria, how many times do I have to tell you that Issei is ours along with the other girls? She said, irritated because she is half dragon and her possession of Issei, although she is also possessive of Issei since he became a hottie, and she along with the other girls will grape him until they get her and the other girls pregnant. This hitch is crazy. But out of nowhere an explosion was heard in front of the faction, so the two fallen and dragon go out to see what is happening, and what they saw surprised them. What did they see? What they saw were some people in armor carrying a large sword, but they looked like soldiers, and other soldiers with a somewhat more advanced suit with firearms that gave off a very great and dense power. But all those soldiers were doing the same thing, and what was it? Just kill every fallen person they found. Valeria, Azazel finishes the tracker to look for Issei. We will take care of them, said the White Empress to activate her armor and launch herself against the soldiers with Penemu. Azazel listened and went to finish the tracker to look for Issei. Instead, the two women were surprised that those soldiers were fighting them, knowing that their power level is on par with the Dragon King god, so they assume that they are also at that level, but they had to dodge 2 crimson red lasers and saw Issei with the Heavenly End equipment, and they both screamed. Penemu and Valeria, Issei. They shouted in surprise at that, since they did not know about his abilities, but Azazel, who had finished the tracker to look for Issei, came out, but when he heard the scream he looked and saw that it was Issei with the Celestial End team, so he thought that he and the others planned all this so that they would not give more supplies to the other factions. That frustrated him, but he created a sheet of paper with an ink pen and began to write something, but he heard Issei speak. Issei, wow, you surprised me. He can really stand up to third-class soldiers. That's an achievement, he said with a calm smile, but when they heard that they were surprised by it. But Azazel finished writing what he was writing and put it next to the tracker and sent it to where Zurchers spoke. Azazel, what do you mean Category 3 Issei? He asked with doubt, appearing next to Valeria, who was scared by that, but Issei answered. Issei, you see, in the Legion of Hope there are 4 categories that are those of Category 3 that are the weakest of the entire Legion of Hope, but that does not mean that they are garbage. On the contrary, they are at the level of a Dragon King god, in fact of the strongest, so their current level is between that level, and if you wonder which ones are of that category are the ones present here, he said with a bigger smile, seeing the surprised faces of the two fallen and Dragona for that, but they Plus 8W9 RN more serious because they are not the strongest, so they had to go more seriously. But Issei spoke. Let me, Valeria, you take care of the 2 crows that remain, and you soldiers go to eliminate all the fallen from the entire planet, thus we save problems with the remaining renegades, he said seriously to attack Valeria, taking her to another place where no one would bother us and change those of the Celestial End team divided in 2 to fight against the 2 fallen, and the soldiers went to eliminate the other fallen in the area and others to those of the world with Issei and Valeria. They arrived at an area where no one would bother them, and Valeria spoke. Valeria, Issei, stop this madness and let's go back to what we were before, please, asked the White Empress sadly. For that clarification, Issei had his partners Valeria Mio, Drake Fem, Mira, Albion Fem, Daki, Trihexa Fem, Ingvilde Akeno and Izari. Yes, I know a northerner, V. But Issei spoke. Issei, I'm sorry, Valeria, but there's no turning back now. Besides, I'm happy with my wife and my daughter. You know what she had to suffer because I wasn't with her. Because of what Belle told me, she locked herself in her room and only came out to eat, but she told me she had no shine in her eyes. When I heard that, my heart broke because my own daughter seemed like a machine. Do you know how I felt when I heard that? She said and shouted the last thing with a broken voice while tears came out of her eyes. Valeria couldn't believe it. The person who defeated her in combat was crying for her daughter, but she imagined it and felt a little bad for the girl. As look, she was listening to everything and felt bad for the girl, since it was noticeable that Issei loved her very much because she felt that she was part dragon. But Issei spoke again. But no more, I will Not return with you, but less Chara that I have a date with my wife when I finish this, for which I will finish this quickly. Supreme darkness dragon armor, he said and shouted, so that behind him appears a large black dragon like darkness with a white chest with white wings at the beginning but at the tip blood red with 3 white horns pointing up and 2 down, very scary because it was with the skeleton of a dragon. That surprised Valeria and look, but they saw that the dragon spoke. It's been a long time since I went outside, said the dragon with a thick and imposing voice, but looked at Valeria in her activated balance break, and then looked at Issei to speak again. Partner, aren't they your ex-partners? Asked the dragon without looking at the brown-haired man, but what he said surprised Valeria and look, but Issei spoke. Issei, yes, they are Kamish, but let's leave that aside and finish them off. Will you help me? He said and asked with doubt to the din known as Kamish, who only made a dark smile and spoke. Kamish. Oh, of course, partner, let's finish them off. Ha 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 ha, he said, entering Issei's body so that a black armor with dragon features covers Issei, who spoke. Issei, let's finish this, Valeria, because I have to go on a date with my wife, he said to disappear from Valeria's sight, who was on guard, but a blow to the stomach left her breathless, but she received a blow that made her back down, but she heard Issei speak. Scarlet needle, he said, to shoot scarlet red lasers from his finger that went to Valeria, who tried to stop them but couldn't, and was pierced by said rays, falling to the floor. But before he finished her off, she was able to make a magic circle to escape. That frustrated him. But then he let out a sigh and went to where the others, who had Azazel and Penemu's heads in their hands, and Bell spoke. Bell, he escaped, right? Asked the sub-leader of the Celestial End team with doubt, to receive a nod from his leader, and Izumi spoke. Izumi, well, we already did what we wanted, now let's go home because I have to make dinner for everyone with the girls. She said seriously, to receive a nod from the others. So they went to the mansion like the third category soldiers who were with them. But what they didn't know was that everything was seen by the other factions that had declared war on them, and they were scared by how they killed them and decided to make them stronger to face them. Chapter 5. The Fall of the Yokai. It's been almost a week since the fallen angel faction was exterminated, and that made the other warring factions nervous because they eliminated an entire faction with only 25 melee soldiers and 25 ranged soldiers. That made the demons nervous. Angels and dragons. But leaving that aside, we can see in the mansion of the team of the Celestial End, all in the pool, the men only had a pair of swimming trunks and showed off their toned bodies. On the other hand, the women wore bikinis that left their respective partners in awe of their wives, so they spent time with friends until the afternoon, when they decided to attack another faction. The entire Celestial End team was in the same room where they planned to attack the fallen faction, and were talking about which one to attack next. Tatsumi, I say we attack the angels, since they have in their possession another of the infinity gems, being that of the mind, and it could be very dangerous if we leave it there, said the celestial general of absolute hell and devils, so that we all agree with them. But Izumi spoke. Izumi, wouldn't it be better to attack the yokais because they have the time gem, and that could get us in trouble if they use it to go back in time and return to where Issei was still with them, and not make this happen, he said and explained seriously, so that we all agree with him, because that gem could give them a lot of problems. So they decided to take those of category 2 to ensure victory, so they went to prepare for the attack. Also, Issei was looking at 2 gems that were in a sword that Jean had, being a bright red one and another bright purple, being the gems of reality and power, but they are still missing the others, that one the angels have and another the dragons have, being more specific, Elizabeth and her treasures. The reality gem, the gem of power. Location, yokai faction. The entire faction was on alert in case the Celestial End team attacked the faction, and they would not have the help of the gods, because otherwise the faction in general would be exterminated, so they are alone in this with the demons, angels and dragons. We can see a blonde girl with blue-green tips with 2 ears and a foxtail entering the Yasaka temple. Guess before going down, if you gave up, look down, you will be surprised who the girl is. The girl entered the Yasaka temple to go to the aforementioned. When I arrive with Yasaka, I speak. Mother, are you okay? Asked the girl, worried about the Kizun, who spoke. Yasaka, yes, I'm fine, daughter. I'm just a little nervous that the faction will be attacked by the person I once admired. You know, Kunu, he could be a good partner for you. But unfortunately he's with that boy Lupin. She said, a little nervous but ultimately furious, to her daughter Kunu, who blushed a lot at what her mother said and spoke. Kunu, mother, please don't say those things. She screamed hyper-mega-ultra-massively blushed at what her mother said even though she wasn't bothered by the idea, but she respected Issei and Lumin's relationship and also saw him as an older brother. But out of nowhere in the most important temple an explosion occurred where everyone including Yasaka and Kunu went to see what happened, and what they saw left them shocked because what they saw was Issei who was in front of a very large metal door. To hear him say something, Issei, Excalibur, screams to lower his arm so that a green trail comes out of his arm to cut the metal door like it was butter. Imagine that instead of the black guy. It's not racism, I'm just telling the truth, it's the metal door. Everyone was more than surprised by that since he only shouted Excalibur, and a green trail came out of his arm to cut the door as if it were butter. But Issei spoke. Issei, to what do I owe the honor of seeing the leader of the yokais as her daughter? He asked with doubt, turning around to look at Yasaka who was with many guards and with Kunu who was surprised that Issei was there. But Yasaka spoke. Yasaka, I must say that, Issei, why are you in this temple? That's my question? The fox yokai asked seriously, on guard like the guards and Kunu behind her so that Issei would speak. Issei, don't tell me you don't know. Starting to walk from one side to the other in this temple there is an object, rather a very powerful gem but at the same time dangerous for the universe, he said to surprise all the yokais present, but continued speaking. There is not only one, there are 5 in total that are known as the Infinity Gems. Thanks to them all supernatural beings like humans exist. My team and I were given the mission to gather them so that they are not a danger to everyone. We already have 2, the one from reality that you saw in my wife's hand, Yasaka, or don't you remember? I explained and asked Yasaka to remember a red orb that gave off a power that far surpassed that of Rizvim at that time, so that she continues talking. That orb was the reality gem. With it you can alter reality to your liking, but right now it is in possession of my friend Naruto's wife like the other gem we have, since the gems chose her as the bearer, but the previous leaders stole them. That's why we are gathering them so she can have them again. And so you know the other one we found in Gregory in Azazel's laboratory. I am not surprised that he has not been able to discover what its power is, and that gem is the gem of power. Whoever possesses it will have the ability to control everything related to energy such as magic, senjutsu, dragon energy, among other energies, in addition to being able to steal them. But the most dangerous is the time gem, since as its name says it can control time as the will of the bearer wants. And that gem is in this temple. That's why I destroyed the metal door, I explained, and he said so that everyone could see a very beautiful green light inside the room that was behind the metal door, so that all the yokai could see how Issei raised his hand so that a bright green gem would go to his hand. The time gem. All the yokais were surprised by the power that the gem that Issei had in his hand gave off. But out of nowhere 50 soldiers with armor with blue crystals appeared in front of Issei, and some soldiers with firearms and futuristic armor appeared behind Issei, pointing at the guards like Yasaka and Kunu, the close combat soldiers, the distance ones, and there appeared the other members of the Celestial End team, and Naruto spoke. Naruto, it seems you have the time gem, Issei said, the celestial general of the ninjas and assassins, seeing the gem in Issei's hand so that the aforementioned could speak. Issei, yes, take it. When we return, give it to Jean because she is the original carrier, said the Celestial General of Chaos, and hope to give it to Naruto so that the aforementioned can keep it in a pocket dimension. To look at Yasaka, I do not want to kill a woman, so I will let them go with their guards and not worry about the civilians. Are already on the island of the 10 legendary races to live a new life, he said, to leave with the Celestial End team and the second category soldiers, so they also went to the demon faction to tell what they know. Chapter 6. The extinction of the dragons. It's been 2 days since the civilians of the yokai faction went to the island of the 10 legendary races, and everyone was welcomed with open arms by the yokais who were on the island and the other races. But we stray from the subject. Now we can see the Celestial End team in the same room where they plan to attack the fallen and yokai factions. Bell, I say attack the demons since they are preparing to fight us even though they don't reach our ankles, he said seriously, so that we all agree with him. But Tatsumi spoke. Tatsumi, no, now we have to attack the dragons so we can make the dragon goddesses go help them. So a group of soldiers commanded by Bell and Naruto go to the dimensional gap to go for the soul gem, while the search squads look for the mind gem that the biblical god and the original Maos hid because they considered the mind gem a hyper-ultra dangerous level danger due to its ability to control people's minds, he said and explained seriously, so that everyone would think about it and nod at the plan that Tatsumi said. So they went to prepare those of Category 1 for the attack. But you're probably wondering what the factions are doing, aren't you? Random. Buck those bucking mothu buckyrs of their p. I didn't finish because I shot him in the head in anger and spoke. Me, nothing happened here people, I said, burning the corpse with tartar fire and disappearing into the darkness completely. With the remaining factions, everyone was in a meeting talking about the events that happened last week and 2 days ago. Those who were present were the Gremory, Citri, Baal, and Phoenix entourages, the 4 mouths of hell, the Seraphim, Yasaka with Kunu, Valeria's team, without their leader because he is in serious condition, the dragon goddesses, the gods of the Greek Asgardians, Hindus, and Aztecs, those of the demonic and angelic council, searchers, Issei Curse, and the celestial end team have already finished off the fallen faction and took the civilians from the yokai faction. Said, hitting the table for Yasaka to speak. Yasaka, not only that, but he left Valeria in serious condition and killed Azazel and Penemus, said the Kazun seriously so that Odin could speak. Odin. Besides, I felt Cosmos were the factions of the fallen, and yokai, said the father of everything seriously so that everyone except the gods have a confused face so that Elizabeth speaks. Elizabeth, what is Cosmos? Odin, the dragon goddess of dreams, asked with doubt, like everyone present, and Artemis spoke. Artemis, what the old man of Odin means, taking out a throbbing vein to the mention. We the gods have the ability to use an energy called Cosmos, which is the energy that made the Big Bang to create the universe. We the gods can use it to make very powerful attacks. In fact, the armies of the divine factions can use the Cosmos, but the one that stands out the most are those of Athena, since she has a group called the Knights of Athena, humans with gigantic potential. They are trained to be a knight of Athena, but there are 3 ranks. The Bronze Knights are the rookies in their group, then there are the Silver Knights, they are more experienced in combat than those of Bronze, and finally there are the Gold Knights, who are the elite of their group and are the ones who protect Athena from all enemies. But they have to know that not everyone can awaken the Cosmos, since you have to be born with it, since it is like a mini-universe within living beings, and for the techniques they are related to the constellations of stars like the Pegasus constellation or the Leo constellation, among other star constellations. The goddess of hunting and virginity seriously explained to all those who did not know that they were surprised by that information, but Poseidon spoke. Poseidon, I hate to admit it, but Artemis is right. Athena's group is the most powerful, since the Gold Knights are capable of facing the gods in a hand-to-hand with their golden armor, or even the divine armor. That is the form when they use the divine cosmos, which is the cosmos that we gods use. In fact, I can feel a gigantic cosmos in them too, he explained and said, pointing to the hyodou brothers. Everyone was surprised by that, more to know that the hyodou brothers have cosmos and a gigantic one. But a voice that they recognized said the following: that's because I activated their cosmos, but they don't know how to use it, that's why they didn't realize before, said a voice that everyone recognized. To look in a window at Issei, who was sitting with one leg on top of the other with a look so hot that it made the women present blush, plus his ex-sisters because of the look. They even got wet because of that look, and the fighting suit he wore didn't help all the women because it was tight, showing off his very well-worked physique. That made the women present blush much more. Instead, the men mentally cursed their parents for making a level 700,000 panty-wetting heartthrob. But Thor spoke. Thor, did you activate the cosmos for them? I asked in surprise, so that everyone would come to their senses and be surprised by it. But Issei spoke again. Issei, yes, I activated the cosmos, and I had hopes that they would realize that they actually used it unconsciously a long time ago, he said calmly, so that everyone would be surprised. But his ex-sister Akane spoke. Akane, how do we use it unconsciously, Issei-san? The younger brunette asked with doubt and surprise, so that everyone would pay attention. It appeared from Akane. Issei, yes. You along with Izari and Kazuma used it unconsciously on many occasions, like in the right-in game against Razor, but nobody noticed it, only me against Kokobile, that only me and the Crazy Crow noticed it. At the meeting of the biblical factions, that only me and Kateria Leviathan noticed them, and against the Cow's Brigade that everyone noticed it were the ones we killed plus Rizvim, but he didn't know what the cosmos was. But I came to tell you something, he said with a smile at everyone's explanations for being so blind, but they paid attention to what he was going to say. Right now we are attacking the territory of the dragons of all factions to extinguish you forever except those of the island of the 10 legendary races, and so you know I am a clone of the original who sent me to warn you of their attack, and since I did my job I'm leaving. Goodbye, idiots, he said, exploding into smoke so that everyone is in shock about that. But they quickly went to the territory of the dragons from The underworld that was the biggest to look at, some soldiers with white suits with blue with a mane of fire orange with white, killing the dragons that tried to stop them but were killed by those soldiers, and by others with very advanced armor that shot to kill the male dragons and evacuated the females like baby and child dragons through a portal. The close combat soldiers, the distance ones, everyone was in shock by that but decided to attack them to help the dragons, but something fell in front of them, creating a smoke screen. When the smoke dispersed, everyone could see Tatsumi, who had a calm look and spoke. Tatsumi. Hello again, factions, tell me, how is your day? He said mockingly as an explosion occurred behind him. Hey, be careful with the grenades. He shouted for the soldiers from a distance to nod to continue covering those in close combat. Idiots, but what was I doing? Yes, he said, to look at the factions. I can't let them intervene in the extinction of the dragons, so he said to get Nevil's katana from the nemesis I will have to hold them back until the others finish with the plan. He said seriously to get into a fighting stance. Nevil, everyone except the gods got into a fighting stance, but the gods moved away enough so as not to get hurt. The biblical factions like the dragon goddesses wanted to protest but remembered that they can't help them or their factions will be exterminated. That frustrated them, but they got into a fighting stance. The dragon carriers put on their armor, and the others released their auras to fight Tatsumi, but he said something that surprised everyone. Tatsumi, you know it's been a long time since I fought against many people, he said, putting his hand on his face, revealing an eye that looked at them seriously. That's why I will use my hollow form, he said, so that a dark energy covers his face and his body so that he comes out with a mask, giving a scream that sounded distorted. The mask that appeared on his face. Everyone was surprised by that, but more the seraphim and the gods, because they thought that the last Shigami had disappeared. But Tatsumi spoke. Tatsumi, you will wonder why I have this mask? Well, I will tell you. This mask, he said with a distorted voice pointing to the mask on his face, is what the Shigamis used a long time ago. In fact, long before the supernatural, when there were only humans. In fact, it was in my era where the Shigamis were able to go to the human world to hunt renegade Shigamis. But I hunted them long before they appeared, since I was a Shigamis. In fact, all in the Celestial End team together with the Destroyer. Apocalypse Chaos Clan, we are Shigamis and other races, only we do not use it much, the other races, but each member of the Celestial End team specializes in different energies. Izumi specializes in demonic energies, angelic energy, and elemental energy. Naruto specializes in chakra, cursed energy, and solar energy. I specialize in spiritual energy, ki energy, dark energy, and divine energy. Bell specializes in dragonic energy, creative energy, destructive energy, and healing energy. And Issei specializes in the cosmos, apocalyptic energy, chaotic energy, magic, abyss energy, although we can use all the energies. We like those the most, but less chara because we waste time, he said with a distorted voice and seriously, while the others were in shock because they could use all the energies that existed, but they prefer those more. But they were on guard because Tatsumi charged with spiritual energy in Nevil to say something. Getsuga Tensho, he said, to give a cut to make a current of darkness that went against them. Everyone dodged it except Asia, who was consumed by the attack. Tatsumi, they surprised me, they didn't try to stop my attack. Those who did were like the nun consumed by the Getsuga Tensho. But let's continue. Do I let them attack now, or are they chickens? He said and asked angrily, mockingly to all of the biblical factions, the dragon goddesses and the Gremory entourages, Citri, Baal and Phoenix along with Valeria's team, and they launched all their attacks that combined when a torrent of power that went against Tatsumi, giving him everything. They thought they killed him, but when the smoke dispersed they saw something that surprised even the gods. He didn't have any scratches, implying that the attack didn't hit him, but Nevil had smoke, implying that he used it as a defense, something that surprised everyone except the gods, since they knew that Nevil is indestructible. It's not for nothing that he could kill the Titan of Supreme Chaos, Kazuma. Now they were a little scared because they thought that Tatsumi would attack them, but he spoke. Tatsumi, you know I would like to continue playing with you, but I have to go now, but I will leave you a gift, diamond dust. He said so that from his fist many ice crystals come out, hitting those of the biblical factions, the dragon goddesses and the Gremory, Citri, Baal and Phoenix entourages along with Valeria's team, leaving them very injured and surprising the gods because that technique was from the Golden Knight of Aquarius and the Bronze Knight of Scene. When the attack ended, his mask disappeared into darkness to go where the soldiers of first category to leave from there. When the gods left, they went where the biblical factions like the dragon goddesses and the Gremory, Citri, Baal and Phoenix retinues along with Valeria's team to heal them. When they finished healing them all, They went to the demon faction with a bad taste in their mouths since they could not stop the extinction of the dragons except for the females like the baby dragons and children who are now on the island of the 10 legendary races starting their new life as the Dragon Kings and the former Dragon Kings like Tan and Fagner Yunlog among other recognized dragons. Chapter 7. The Fall of the Sky. We can see the leaders recovering from their injuries caused by Tatsumi so that Uriel can speak. Uriel. Brother, we have to look for the mind gem before Issei finds it, said seriously one of the archangels of heaven to his brother leader, so that everyone is surprised by that, but Daki spoke. Daki, how about looking for the mind gem that God and the original Mao hid because they considered the mind gem a hyper-ultra dangerous level? The dragon goddess of the apocalypse asked with doubt so that everyone would agree with her, but Gabriel spoke. Gabriel, yes. But if Issei with the Celestial End team are looking for the Infinity Gems, they will have sent many search squads to find it. That's why we have to find it as quickly as possible, said the most beautiful woman in heaven, so that everyone agrees with her, so that everyone goes to rest, and the remaining leaders send many search squads to look for the mind gem. But what they didn't know is that that gem was in heaven in one of God's rooms. 3 months later, the faction squads were searching the entire planet without success. But with the Celestial End team there was progress since they discovered that the mind gem is in the sky in one of the rooms of the biblical god. So they decided to have a break to have a good time, so their families had a lot of time to do their stupid things on the part of men. On the other hand, the women always scolded them for the stupid things they did among themselves, bothering the faction leaders. But the ones who stood out the most were Bel and Issei, since they always bothered the Asgardian and Greek gods. And those who bothered them the most were Zeus and Odin because they spent their time spying on women, especially young girls. But they always sent a letter to Hera and Freya to beat them up so they would learn. But they didn't do it, so they decided to go talk to them both. But on the way they met the goddesses who loved Bel. They were Artemis, Hestia, Aphrodite, among other goddesses who loved him. He also met his friends when he was in the Hestia family, and they talked for a while. Then they went to talk to Zeus to stop spying on women, and they threatened to release the giants and give them 900 times their power. That scared Zeus a lot, who nodded because Hera looked at him with a look that scared the 3 men. But Bel also met his parents and his Aunt Althea, who knew everything her son-nephew was doing and told him that they would support him in everything, and he nodded, and they went to Odin's place. But they also met Loki, Freya and their families, plus Aes, who hugged Bel with tears of happiness, and told him that they were all aware and supported him in everything. He thanked him for that, and they went to Odin and told him the same thing as Zeus but with the Ragnarok. I think it's written like that. And then they went to prepare everything for the attack on heaven. Location: Los Angeles faction. We can see all the Seraphim in a meeting talking about what might happen. Raphael, what do you think Issei is doing now, brothers? He asks his brothers seriously so that his brother Uriel can talk. Uriel: we don't know, brother, but we have to be alert in case he attacks when we have our guard down, he said seriously so that all his brothers agree with him. But out of nowhere an explosion made the Seraphs leave the room where they were to go where the explosion to look at Issei with many soldiers of 3 and 2 categories, so that Issei speaks. Issei: it's been a long time since I came here, but I won't waste time, he said, putting a kind of belt on his waist that Michael recognized. It was heard that Issei would release the Progresski Eden. Eden, Issei. Henshin. He said to put it inside the Eden driver so that something could be heard that surprised all the Seraphim. Progress. ATK. Imagine. Ideal. Illusion. Eden the Kamen Rider. The creator who charges form believing in Paradisiaco. This is how he was covered by Kamen Rider Eden's armor. All the Seraphim were in shock because Issei was the new Kamen Rider Eden, but he launched himself against them while the soldiers were preparing to kill everyone they saw because all the angels were throwing spears of light at them to kill them. On the other hand, Issei and the Seraphim were sweeping the floor for their regeneration because when they cut him and pierced him with something, he didn't feel it and continued fighting against them. While this was happening, the rest of the Celestial End team were looking for the room where the mind gem was to take it, and they found it to tell Issei, who decided to destroy the entire sky. So all of us from the Legion of Hope left the sky along with the rest of the Celestial End team so that Issei could launch a cosmos sphere that destroyed the entire sky without leaving anything of the sky, and they left there. Chapter 8. The Fall of the Demons 1-2. It's been 5 days since the sky fell. Since then, all the demons and dragon goddesses have been training until they are exhausted in the pocket dimension for those 5 days along with Valeria's team and the dragon goddesses. And when they came out, the whole planet began to shake from their power, but the team of the Celestial End made a barrier in the underworld so that the whole planet would not shake. And they were a little surprised because their power was almost at the level of a heavenly emperor god king, but they were at the same level as me, surpassed them in experience. But I get off topic. We can see in the underworld all those who remain to fight against Issei and the Celestial End team in a meeting talking about how they could get out of the underworld because the barrier that the Celestial End team put up was very powerful and impossible for them to break even with their combined powers. Ajuka, we've tried everything but we can't break the barrier surrounding the underworld, he said seriously and frustrated for not being able to break such a barrier, but Searchers put his hand on his shoulder to speak. Searchers, don't blame yourself, my friend. It's our fault for having our power so high that we made the whole planet shake, and someone put this barrier so that the whole planet doesn't shake, he said with frustration because of that, and trying to cheer up his friend, and Rias spoke. Rias, the worst thing is that we can't go find Issei to make him my husband like the other girls, she said with frustration and obsession with Issei, as all the girls present nodded at what the redhead said, making the men present shiver because of that. But an explosion appeared in the capital Lilith. Everyone who was in the room went to the capital to see the first category soldiers killing the guards and those who tried to stop them, and in front of them something fell from the sky to show Izumi, with a serious look, to speak. Izumi, hello again, ladies and gentlemen. How is your day going? The green-haired girl asked calmly and mockingly. Akeno, you damn, today I will avenge my father, she said angrily because they killed her father Betrayal. Izumi, oh, you mean that crow that used lightning magic, whose manhood I cut off, then I made him eat it while some creatures that I thought were just devouring it mercilessly, right? I asked with doubt, remembering that moment when they attacked the fallen faction so that everyone present would be surprised by what he made Betrayal do, causing the men present to be scared to the point of no return. While the women looked sideways at Akeno, who was static because of that. That's how he is, ha 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 ha. How to forget his screams of mercy and agony was the best. But I don't have time, so I'll tell you something, he said madly, but in the end seriously so that everyone pays attention. The strongest go to the center of the capital Lilith because there is this Issei waiting for them to fight, he said seriously so that the Maus like Valeria's team along with the aforementioned dragon goddesses and the Baal entourage went to the center of the capital Lilith, leaving only the Gremory entourages. Citri and Phoenix for him to speak again. You know, this brings back memories when I was a heroine a long time ago, he said to surprise the entourages because she was a heroine of the ancient era. But that is in the past now. I have something to protect no matter the cost, he said to take out a black sword with yellow and red. Izumi, okay, shall we start the fun? I asked to see the entourages in fighting pose so she can do the same to launch herself at them. With those who went to the center of the capital Lilith, they went to the center of the capital Lilith to see Issei, who was sitting in a chair, to look at the Maus like the dragon goddesses and the Baal retinue so that Ophis would speak. Ophis, little dragon, please stop this madness. You're killing many civilians. The dragon goddess of infinity asked Issei to speak. Issei, I will not stop him, Ophis, since you along with those who fell are greedy and arrogant beings and believe yourselves superior to everyone, he said seriously so that everyone would be quiet, because it was true those who fell were greedy and arrogant and believed themselves superior to others like them, except for Valeria's team and the same one who spoke. Leify, Issei-sama, please stop this, do it for our friendship please, she said pleading because she didn't want more innocent people to die because of the leaders. But Issei spoke. Issei, I'm sorry Leify, but there's no turning back now, he said to put himself in Eden Driver. Eden Driver. So Issei took out the Eden progress key and the whole button to open it. Eden, Issei, Henshin, he said to put it inside the Eden Driver. Progress. Arc. Imagine. Ideal. Illusion. Eden, the Kamen Rider, the creator who charges forward believing in paradise. This is how Kamen Rider Eden's armor covers it. All the Maus and dragon goddesses were surprised by that, but Issei spoke. Issei, you find it surprising, right? If you had to call me in a serious way, Eden, Kamen Rider Eden, he said while Naruto, Bell and Tatsumi appeared next to him. Who spoke? Naruto. Well, let's finish this quickly because otherwise the girls will kill us, he said, scared so that the others would get scared by that, and Naruto took out a black katana with a scarlet red flame on the blade so that some white particles came out so that he could say something that surprised the dragon goddesses even more. Bankai, he said so that a light appeared blinding everyone for a moment, so that he came out with a terrifying yellow appearance with black parts with a black sword, 2 horns on his head, and some black spheres behind. Bella katana blue at the tip, and the handle gray robotic type, and Tatsumi takes out an evil. The katana that Bell took out. Bell Tatsumi, Bankai. They shouted so that the same light that appeared with Naruto appears, blinding everyone again so that they see themselves with different appearances. That of Bell with white hair like light, black eyes with yellow pupils, with a black suit with white, and Tatsumi with long black hair with green parts, a black helmet with green eyes on his chest, some green lines, black pants with some kind of green gems, but what stood out the most was a strange symbol on his waist, a tail as black as the night, claws on his hands and feet with shoulder pads that had a kind of smiling mouth. The dragon goddesses were in shock because the three of them had the Bankai, which was practically impossible to obtain, but they still launched themselves against them who also did it. Chapter 8. The Fall of the Demons 2-2. We can see Izumi fighting against the Gremory, Citri, and Phoenix entourages. Although they were more than her, Izumi was overcoming them little by little. Izumi, come on, is that all from the strongest entourages in the entire underworld? What a disappointment, she said, disappointed in them, but had to stop Kazuma's blow with the Red Emperor's armor. Kazuma, don't make fun of us, you walking abus, he said angrily, but Izumi hit him so hard that he sent him crashing against a wall, breaking it in the process, but he continued destroying the walls with the force that Izumi's hit gave him. Izumi, you know, I hate many things, but the one I hate the most is when they call me a walking scare. That's why I won't hold back anymore, she said with a coldness that scared everyone present, but they were surprised by what she said. But everyone saw that Kazuma was shot at Izumi, but she said something that confused everyone. Kivala, are you ready? She said so everyone could see a kind of white bat robot, but what surprised them was that she spoke with a woman's voice. Kivala, I'm ready, partner, to beat them up. So Izumi takes Kivala and said something that confused the three entourages. Izumi, Henshin. He said so that everyone could see with surprise how some petals came out of Kivala to cover her with the Kamen Rider Kivala armor. Izumi, now it's time for you to get serious because I will no longer hold back at all, he said seriously, to wield Helios, and that it be wrapped in scarlet red fire so that the Gremory, Citri, and Phoenix retinues begin to use all their power, so they all launched themselves against Izumi, who did the same. In the center of the capital Lilith, everything was a war field because the Maos were fighting against Bell, who was overcoming them thanks to the Bankai. With the Bail entourage they were fighting against Naruto, who was only playing with them. With Valeria's team they were fighting against Tatsumi, who was humiliating them in the worst possible way. On the other hand, the dragon goddesses who were fighting against Issei in his Kamen Rider Eden form, but all of them except the boys were tired from the fight, while the boys weren't even sweating a little. So everyone gathered, the Maos with Valeria's team, the dragon goddesses and the Bail entourage breathing heavily. However, the boys weren't sweating at all, but Issei spoke. Issei, they already gave up. They can't beat us, he said seriously, looking at the Maos like Valeria's team and the dragon goddesses and the Bail entourage, who recovered a little and stood up with difficulty so Zerchers could speak. Zerchers, and we will not give up until we win this war, he said with a little difficulty but with seriousness to stand up right in front of the others present. But Naruto spoke. Naruto, you don't learn right, but what can be done, but we will give you the honor of seeing us in our rider forms, he said with a distorted voice while he returned to his normal form so that the Agito driver appears on his waist. Naruto, Henshin, he said to press the sides of the Agito driver so that a light appears, blinding everyone for a moment so that everyone present sees Naruto with the Kamen Rider Agito armor, surprising the Maos and the dragon goddesses because Naruto is the new Kamen Rider Agito. Tatsumi, well, it's my turn, he said, to return to his human form to take the Amazon Alpha driver out of a magic circle and put it on. So Tatsumi moves one of the levers so that a voice says, Alpha, Tatsumi. Amazon said so that an explosion appears where Tatsumi is, and a few seconds later he appears with the Kamen Rider Amazon Alpha armor, surprising the Maos and the dragon goddesses even more that Gatsumi is the new Kamen Rider Amazon Alpha. Bell. Okay, now my turn, he said, to return to his human form and say something that confused everyone except the Maos and the dragon goddesses. Kivit, are you ready? He asked so that a kind of black bat robot with gold and white appeared next to Bell, but what surprised everyone except the boys is that the bat spoke. Kivit, as always, let's demonstrate the power of Kiva. So Bell takes Kivit and plays it. Bite. So he makes her bite him and marks appear where chains wrap around her hip, forming the Kiva belt. Bell, Henshin, he said to put Kivit in the Kiva belt, thus forming the Kamen Rider Kiva armor, surprising the Mao and the dragon goddesses that Bell is the new Kamen Rider Kiva. Issei, well, let's finish this once and for all, he said, so that Izumi appears next to the boys with the heads of the Gremory, Citri, and Phoenix retinues next to Mio's, surprising everyone by the armor that Izumi was using but angering Zerchers and Seraphal a lot. You were taking too long, Izumi, but you arrived just in time to finish them off once and for all he said looking at the aforementioned who threw the heads of the Gremory Citri and Phoenix retinues next to Mio's and spoke. Izumi, yes, but it was annoying the words of Rias Gremory who said, Issei help me. Or, Issei I'm sorry but come save me. Things like that of hypocrisy, but let's finish this quickly because I have to go shopping with the girls, she said, so that the entire Celestial End team nods to prepare their most powerful attacks. Issei, the 100 dragons. He said so that behind him came out 100 dragons that went to attack the Mouse like Valeria's team, the dragon goddesses and the Baal entourage. Bell, Pegasus meteors. He said so that many blue energy spheres came out of his fist that merged with the 100 dragons. Tarsumi, 1,000 dimensional cuts. Said to make a line that broke like a glass that merged with the 100 dragons and the Pegasus meteors and went against the Mouse like Valeria's team, the dragon goddesses and the Baal entourage. Naruto, final shining. He said to join his hands to make a torrent of golden power that merged with the 100 dragons, the Pegasus meteors and the 1,000-dimensional cuts and went against the Mouse like Valeria's team, the dragon goddesses and the entourage. Izumi, zero darkness. Said to shoot from his finger a torrent of darkness that merged with the 100 dragons, the Pegasus meteors, the 1,000-dimensional cuts and the final glow to make 100 crystal blue dragons, dark gold in color. The combined attack was so strong that the barrier that was in the underworld broke and the entire supernatural world felt the power and began to tremble, but when it collided with the Mouse like Valeria's team, the dragon goddesses and the Baal entourage, when a great explosion that devastated everything in its path left only the Category 1 soldiers and the Heavenly End team alive. An example of the explosion. When everything was over, the first Category soldiers along with the Heavenly End team left what was once known as the underworld of the demonic faction, so that not even the ruins remained.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.